So as Sam mentioned, my name is Patrick, and I'm from Nosto. I actually met with Sam, I think, in Magento Live, so it's kind of nice to come around and go around. And I really like the community that we have around the platform. So that's one of the cool things about Magento. Before we delve into the topic of the day, I want to ask you, just to kind of wake you up a little bit. Can you raise your hand if you enjoy Christmas shopping? A few people? Brilliant. And how about how many of you will do more than half of the Christmas shopping online? Wow. Can we see we're in an e-commerce meetup here. So I think there's a small correlation between the people here. And obviously, regardless of your opinion, it is one of the most important seasons for most retailers out there. But it's also one of the most competitive times of the year. And how can you differentiate? So today we're going to talk about one solution to differentiate and to really make it a success for the year. And specifically concentrating on boosting customer acquisition using targeted ads and promotions, increasing conversion and average order value with relevant recommendations. And I think relevancy is something we'll come back again and again. And finally, improving customer retention with personalized communication, mainly email. So a few words about Nosto if you haven't heard of us. How many have heard of Nosto before this evening? Okay, brilliant. Obviously, you might have heard of us from back in the day. We've changed a little bit in terms of kind of our focus, but still on a very nice track and founded by retail. And what we do essentially is we help or make it easy for retailers to deliver those personalized experiences online. And basically, we're very privileged to be now serving more than 10,000 clients. So we've learned a thing or two. Hopefully, we can share some insights today. And also happy to say we're now a Magento Code technology partner, which tells you there's something in the, behind the scenes and under the hood in the technology as well. What we do essentially is we help with the extension we have from Magento. We monitor everything that happens on the site. And we use the information and knowledge to then deliver those personalized experiences through Facebook ads, recommendations, pop-ups, and triggered emails. So that's about Nosto. You can come talk to me or Rabia, my colleague here, after the presentation if you have any questions. But in today we'll have 7 or 8, I think 7 tips. And what I really hope is that each one, especially the ones who are working either in a retail, like a company, or having clients in retail, can take at least one of these 7 and implement it as soon as possible. So the first one is about leveraging data. And the reason we have this here is because buying cycle is becoming more and more complex and long. People look at your site and they go away, look at a competitor's site, they browse around, they skip things, and it's becoming more complex. And when they come back, you have all this beautiful data of their previous visits. You know what they looked at, you know what they liked, what they probably didn't like. So if you're not using it, it's a huge missed opportunity. And actually only 15% of users buy on the first point of contact. So you really have the chance to use the data in most of the cases. And of course, you know, Amazon is somebody everyone wants to know, and they're doing a pretty good job with this. When somebody, you know, like Isaac here just had a baby, it's a very different experience, both on site and emails, than Lottie, who is preparing for the weekend. And that is something that you can do. So one of the key messages here is you are no different from Amazon. You have access to the same data and same behavior than Amazon does. The question is, are you using it? Are you using the data? Tip number 2, how many, so let's ask the other way around. Is there somebody here who works in retail and is not going to participate or do anything for Black Friday? Okay, 1. Good work, Sam. The rebel. One of the things you probably will do at some point in this season is send an email where you say, hey, here's our Christmas stuff, or you know, whatever. Come for Christmas, or this is the last point you can buy anything from us, and then we're not going to ship anymore. And if you look at something like Ashley Clark, it's, you know, their email is beautifully made, looks nice. I think you agree with me. Guaranteed Christmas delivery. However, if I don't quite remember what is last click, what did they sell, and also what I was looking at on their website, what I'm interested in, I would ignore this. It's not personal. It's nothing interesting to me. Just like, okay, cool, 50% off, right? Imagine the difference between this and what they're doing at Instant Lux. It's a French site, but I think it's a nice example in a kind of a similar space. And what they're doing, and they have a similar newsletter. It's just basic content, same for everyone. However, they have a piece in here which is dynamically personalized to the recipient, and it's based on whatever they looked at before. And you can imagine if I get an email with saying, you know, we have this Christmas sale coming up, or, you know, last chance to buy anything, and something that I've looked at, you can imagine what the increasing click-through rate is going to be. Tip number 3. So there's something interesting that even our clients aren't doing that often, but technically there's an ability to see which sources do people land from, whether it's PPC campaign or any other type of campaign that we can track using the parameters. Now, when we see that, we can then analyze automatically what are the things that the people coming from that source ended up looking at. So if they looked at some particular boots and they came from that source, which were advertising boots, we can show those items on the landing page. And typically we see about the click-through rate of 5%. And there's not many things on any page that attracts so many clicks. So it's a pretty nice one to think about. I could talk about product pages for quite a long time, but we'll focus on a couple of key things here. There's one really nice article by Baymart Institute, which is e-commerce research house, and you can have a look at it. Basically what they're saying is you can do alternatives and you can do supplementary on product page recommendations. And most of the retailers out there are doing none or one of them. Can you think of your own store? Is somebody doing both? So both alternatives, what are the things I could buy instead of this, and in addition to this? Anyone? Okay, cool, one. And it's really, if you think about the purpose of those two, they're different. The purpose of the alternative products is to help me find the right product. What should I buy if I'm looking at, again, let's say a coat or the drill? What is the drill I should buy? And in terms of behavioral data, the best indication is the people who looked at this drill, they ended up looking and buying ultimately these and these drills. That's a good indication of alternatives. And in some supplementary, it's very similarly, what are the things people either had in their cart or perhaps bought together with this drill? Drill bits, I don't know, some sort of thing where you keep it, whatever it is. So to give you a couple of examples here, Temptation Gifts, obviously a big season for them ahead. What they're doing is when I'm looking at a Disney frozen snack container, they're giving me some alternatives. What else is there? Perhaps in the frozen kind of container category, alternatives. And then something else, kind of giving me exposure to their product line. So if I came specifically, I don't know why would I, but for this container, they're giving me it like, hey, we have this stuff as well. And they're giving me the exposure to the rest of the things they sell. And that's something a lot of people forget. And that is basic e-commerce best practice. Have the recently viewed in there. You can do it with Magento or with someone like Nosto where you put it to the cloud so it doesn't decrease your page load. And this is quite interesting. A lot of people tell me, we don't want to put anything on the cart page. It's, we don't want to cannibalize the sales, right? Makes sense. Makes sense. However, when you look at the data, the transactional data, and if you can see people who bought this hand wash, what was the second most likely item in the cart when they bought it? What is the most third most purchased item together with it? I think you get really good data on what are the relevant items to buy with this one, especially within gifts time. When you're buying hand wash for, I don't know, your auntie, and you have this budget of £50, and you want to spend it all for your auntie, and now if you're just suggesting that, I'm going to check out and not come back. I will buy the rest of my budget somewhere else. But if you're giving me good suggestions, hey, she's traveling a lot, why don't I buy the bundle together? using the data, it's really helpful for the client to get it all from one place, check onto, and it's really good for your business in terms of average order value. For example, Locker Direct had a 26% increase in average order value. Now, tip number 5 is about search. And in Christmas time, some people will know what they want, and some people will have a vague idea. The ones who know exactly what they want, they will hopefully find it using, just the metadata that you have put in the Magento. But perhaps we'll see in M2, it might be improvement, but we all know in M1 the search has not been the strongest point of Magento. And very often when people search for long tail keywords, you will end up with something like, posters for teens, party, black dress, whatever it is that's not in the metadata, it'll bring no results. And a good way to get rid of that roadblock is, again, look at the behavior. The people who typed in this keyword, what did they end up looking at and buying? And it's a really good indication that it's relevant for this keyword. Here's an example you can't really see here, but it's posters for teens. Some grandma typing, what should I buy for my grandchildren? And she doesn't know anything about Call of Duty or anything, but this will give her some indication where to start. And you can think of your own store, an example where it's a long tail keyword people use. If you look at the data, we have no result at the moment. Have a look at it. Tip number 6, so it's about improving retention. And that is something hopefully, or most of you already do. So how many are doing at least abandoned cart emails? And keep your hand up if they have personalized recommendations. Okay, brilliant. A couple, let's say. When you think of it, most of the retailers I speak to, they have this. Like, hey, you left this bag of joy in this case, or left these items, come back and finish. Sometimes people have a reason why they abandoned the cart. Maybe they wouldn't want those items. So when you do this, where you suggest other items based on the things they left, typically we see about 8 times the engagement. And it's a pretty good stat. And of course, the more relevant, the more quantity there is, the better the conversion in that. And I was talking to one agency we work with, and he was also a user. He likes to purchase stuff. And he was just like, every time that he gets the emails, he just like scrolls through what else is there, because he's really excited about the products. All right, getting close to the end. So tip number 7, about posting on social media. Obviously, social media is something that I know a lot of retailers are looking into. They're like putting their toe into the lake, but not quite in the pond yet. If you look about, let's say, Facebook only for now, it's one of the most targeted ways you can reach 1.4 billion people. That's worth exploring at least. And many times, the first thing someone do is something like this, where they select things that they think are going to be interesting to their clients. They will, manually select 3 items, or maybe they're randomly pulled out from the catalog, and present them like to all of their clients. Here you go. This may be not very relevant for winter, but you'll get the point. Compare this to knowing what I looked at during my visit, maybe some nice top, and using that data to understand not only the things I saw, but things I'm likely to be interested in. So let's say I looked at some sort of nice jumpsuit, something like this, like flowery. If you look at the data based on this flowery category, who was in that and what else they looked at or maybe bought, I guess that's making really nice suggestions on Facebook. And it's very early days for us as a company. We launched this in June, July. And, but so far, the stats have been quite staggering. So definitely worth looking into how can you use the data to make the ads more relevant, especially in retargeting. And the final point is about urgency. I really hope that this is something incorporated in the business already for most of you guys. But not only urgency instead of creating it for all the visitors, but understanding who should we target? For example, if you have loyal customer base who keep coming back and back, it doesn't make sense to incentivize them with 20% discount. They're likely to buy anyway, so just shooting yourself to your own leg. So if you can understand, for example, like Great Days in Sweden does, who are the new visitors? Who have we not seen on our site yet? And then approach them with a discount, so rabatt. If you don't speak Swedish, it's a 10% sale. And I chose this one because it's a nice car in there as well. And this is a one-time offer. It's basically for the new visitors, and it's a time incentive as well. And it's worked really, really well for them. Those who engage with this, with the pop-up, are 65% more likely to convert. And it's quite obvious really why.
Where did it say that it's time limited?
It doesn't say here, but it always works with 24-hour metric. Usually we recommend putting it out there. It's their choice how they want to position it, but it's a good question. How's your Swedish? No?
No, yeah.
So yeah, and of course you can do the same for people who are trying to abandon the site, or a number of different trigger points that you can set up for yourself. So hopefully, using at least a few of these tips, you'll be able to, as mentioned, boost customer acquisition, be more intelligent in the way you target, increase the conversion rate, which I think is something so often neglected. You put all this money in acquiring customers, and then none of the investment is made in the funnel, which is really sad. It's like pouring water into a bucket full of holes, and it's like evaporating. Average order value. And then finally, improving the customer retention. So maybe a key point I want to make here, especially regarding the Black Friday that Hillary mentioned as well. There's going to be massive peaks of people who will never come back, and massive amounts of people who will buy and never come back. Now the key here, especially for something like Black Friday, is there's going to be a share of people who will come back no matter what you do. That's just sell them stuff, and that's fine. However, there's a share of people in there who we can target intelligently and create long-term value for the business. And some of the key ways of doing that is the really triggered emails. For example, we missed email. If they've been on the site, we captured the email, and they haven't been on the site for a long time, automatically sending them something, let's say in 30 days, 60 days, what is contextually relevant and relevant based on the data. So that's all on my side. Thank you. And before we kick off the questions, just to let you know, there's nosto.com/resources. There's plenty of good stuff. We have a blog as well. And if you want to check, I sometimes write about e-commerce on my side. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah, Alex.
How can Nosto deal with merchants who don't have an extensive catalogue SKU? So merchants who may only retail less than 100 products, for example.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're based on aggregated data. How does Nosto work for those merchants?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And it's kind of a related question to what is the minimum amount of SKUs you need to make it work for you. And if you're asking in terms of personalization, it's a very different question, but I'm going to apply from Nosto point of view. And as mentioned, we do quite a few areas now. Recommendations is part of them. And it's certainly true that some of the recommendations, let's say if you have 20 products, are not going to be that relevant for your business. It doesn't make sense maybe if you have a category to put like the category bestsellers if you have 10 products in there. You can just scroll through all of them. However, something like, let's say, a personalized recommendation on the homepage for returning customers, that's going to be relevant for quite a low amount of SKUs because you want to make them immediately make the purchase. I guess decrease the load time by making it more relevant so they don't have to navigate and make a lot of clicks. And also making the customer's journey more enjoyable. So I would say in terms of the recommendations, not talking about the pop-ups and stuff, which are relevant even if you have one product, at least have maybe 50 products. That's like my personal estimation. And below that, there's some things we can do, but it's less effective.
Are there any plans to expand Nosto for content? Obviously, Magento's got an extensive CMS section, and we're seeing more and more customers, clients integrating blogs onto their sites to talk about the specific products and the usage. Are there any plans to build in recommended articles or recommended on CMS pages, for example?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And although, again, I'll answer from my own point of view, not from the companies, but I know there's been talks. Obviously, there's been a lot of interest in the US, for example. We've launched this spring, and it's kind of very common that in the US, the personalization companies also do the content bit, where they present the banners and stuff. But from our point of view, there's kind of a couple of tricky points, because we're founded by a retailer, and he wanted from the start to make it super fair to the retailers, so he wanted to make it performance-based. And when you talk about something like content, like people, something like a woman for the women who come in, and then the man picture for mankind, how can you measure the performance of something like that? It's much harder. With products, it's much more direct. If you actually click and engage with the recommendation, or you engage with the triggered email, we can then track it for a very short period, and if you buy within the period, we know it was kind of, we helped the retailer. So it's much more direct. But that is not to say that we haven't looked at it, and it's something definitely it's going to be there at some point. Currently, what we do in this space is we can treat the articles as products, and we can say something like, after you read the blog article, people who read this blog article went on and viewed these products. Which is a really great way of monetizing your blog content, and something actually might be more relevant than suggesting other articles.
So can you do that presently?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the space I've been following the personalization space over a few years.
Yeah.
It's really interesting how it's evolved, because on the one hand, it seems you've had the recommendation engine providers, like Nosto started out as,
yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
And then you have the more, for want of a better phrase, on-site retargeting companies, those who say, okay, here's a set of rules, do this when this happens. And I think while those two are converging, and a lot of people in the algorithmic space are starting to do rule-based stuff, at the end of the day, you can never do one-to-one with rule-based, and you can never be as flexible with algorithms as you can with the rule-based stuff. So it's a kind of they both have their place. But what's your thoughts on the space, and where do you think Nosto is headed? Is it more one or the other?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right in a sense that there's conversion. You can see players who used to be on the purely on the pop-up side, like Yieldify, for example, is kind of entering a little bit on the recommendation side, and the players like Nosto then entering into the pop-up side, because it's kind of natural that you have this core set of data like we do, and we know quite a lot of things about the end users of our clients. So we can use that same database to do a lot of things, and it seems unrelated, but it's actually wrapped around the same core. And in terms of where the field is going, I think if you look at some of the kind of pioneers, which is the bigger companies, we can start seeing some trends where the personalization is starting to become more multimedia based. There's some companies who are doing video personalization. They send, when you buy a sofa, I can't remember which retailer it was, they send you a video that is personalized to you. And that's something that's probably gonna, at some point, scale up to more people, and people are gonna expect that kind of treatment. And if they're not gonna be treated as individuals, like a mass herd, they're gonna get frustrated. And I think already we can see, after Amazon, that people, if you look at the heat mapping studies, that how the eyes move, for example, the product page, they expect the Amazon stuff. They kind of look for the alternatives at the bottom and for the complementary items. Because if you don't have that, you're kind of missing out, because people want, or they expect that. And probably the same will happen with some of the other stuff that big players are doing. First, the smaller retailers will demand it, and then the vendors will provide it. Hopefully that answers the question a little bit. Yeah.
The idea about content is quite interesting, and that we've been talking to a number of different partners in your kind of space, and what you're following is the kind of traditional way of put products in front of them because algorithmically these are the ones that are most likely to convert.
Yeah.
But we were talking, we're at Flint, we're a solution partner. We were talking to a couple of partners, and they were talking about it's really important to recognise the customer and what point in the buying cycle they are when they're hitting any particular time. So when they get there the first time, there's certain things they want to know. It's like, is this right for me? What are the kind of products I'm likely to want? When they come back the second time, they want to be shown the right products. When they come back the third time, now they want to know, is there free shipping? Is there free returns? So the idea of being able to serve content, not just products, is so important because actually now you can recognise, now I don't want to show them products, I want to show them stuff that makes them take the stuff that's in their basket and check it out. And we came to the conclusion actually that one of the biggest indicators, I don't know, wonder if you could tell me perhaps, what do you think one of the, we did some analysis and we found that there was one huge indicator that someone was about to check out their basket. What do you think it might be?
Ooh, putting on the spot.
Yeah, why not? It's your business.
Biggest indicator in terms of behavior, you mean?
Yeah.
Doing a search?
No.
Go fast to the product page?
No.
Big pause.
No.
Sharing on Facebook.
I'll tell you. They emptied things from their basket. And the reason why is because they put stuff in their basket, but the only time you take stuff out of your basket is when you're going to check out.
Yeah.
And so when you're showing that kind of behavior, you want different types of content in front of you. You want stuff that says, ready to check out. Tell me the stuff I need to know now I'm about to check out. I need to know there's free delivery. I need to know that I can trust these guys. I need, that kind of stuff. And I need to know that there's free returns.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, probably right.
Well, but the moment that they check out the product from the basket is the same time that they do the checkout anyway.
No, they're removing things from their basket.
Yeah, but if someone is removing something from the basket, they go directly to the checkout. You don't have time to put content there. You are in the checkout already.
Yeah, but as you put remove from your basket a Magento, it refreshes the page. And now you've got a situation where you put a different message in front of them.
Okay.
But I guess you could create an if rule in CSS where you say, if remove items from the basket, show this div HTML placeholder, which would have those recommendations. One of the best practices in this case where people use cart page as a wish list, they put stuff in there as you mentioned, and sometimes they put it in their bookmark, right? They put /cart, and then they come back, it's empty. And one of the best practices that we suggest at least is either if you're doing simply, put at least the Magento recently viewed. Or if you want to do it a little bit more intelligently, use something like personalized recommendation, which looks at the person's browsing history and suggests the items they're most likely to buy. So it takes account of whether they added to the cart, the recency, the frequency, and it's super relevant for those clients who come back to the cart page, they see the items, it's empty, but they see the items they had in the cart, click, 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 and finish the purchase. So helpful. I think that's all. Thank you, guys.